Good morning, everybody. It's Peter here from AJS, and it's once again my delight to take you into a jeweler's workshop somewhere around Australia. And this week we're heading once again to the South Island and to sunny Hobart and the even sunnier Kirra-lea Cairns. Welcome, Kirra-lea.
Hello, thank you for having me again.
Great to have you back, Kirra-lea. And today we're continuing our adventure in sand casting, and in particular mixed metal casting. Do you want to just, so our last demonstration, we explored mixed metal casting. Do you just want to give a little recap on what we did then and what we're going to do today?
Yeah, so last time we were, actually I probably can just grab the pieces. Oops. So last time we cast in place some brass granules as if they were stones. So that was just a nice simple segue into working with mixed metals. And then I showed you how to do the twice cast technique, which is this piece here where we cast the silver first and then we cast copper second to get this really interesting mix of the two metals.
We did a good job, didn't we?
Yeah, we did all right. And now we're going to do the same twice cast technique, but instead of it being in a pendant shape, we're going to do it in a ring shape, which changes a little bit, but not very much. It's essentially just the same technique applied to a vertical flask. So before we were doing, I think we were doing it horizontal, were we? No, we did it vertical as well. Anyway, I'm just going to do the same thing, but with a ring this time, which seems to have a more dramatic look when it's done to a ring. So if that's all right, I might just start.
No worries. So just while you're doing that, just getting yourself set up, I'll just invite our viewers online to please say good day. Thank you, Robert, for introducing yourself. Good to have you back. And if you can say good day, that'd be wonderful.
Hi, Robert. All righty, let's get into it.
Indeed.
So we always start with our male half of the flask. And that's the one that has the lip, the one that has the sticky outy part that goes into the other piece. And so that's the one that's the male half. We start with that first. I like to pack it lip side down and pack from behind. And I just cookie cut a little bit of clay, press it down with my thumb and fingers so it's nice and tightly packed on that lip surface. And then I'll just put a big old handful of clay in and I'll compress it with a hammer. Now, the reason why I'm packing it lip side down and packing it from behind is because I'm just compressing that hammer with I'm compressing that clay with a steel hammer, and this is an aluminium flask. The hammer will dent and distort this aluminium lip, which means your two halves won't fit together, and you'll have to either do a bit of work to clean it all up and make them fit together again, or get a new flask. So for the longevity of your flask, it's a good idea to put it lip down, pack from behind, because if you do hit that aluminium frame on the outside here, it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect how your flask works. All right, so I like to use my little ruler to cut off that extra clay, because we want to make sure this surface is flush so that when we're flipping it over lip side up, and when we're pushing our object into the clay is nice and fully supported. It's not just going to dip in because there's no clay support behind it. All right, so I've flipped it over so it's lip side up now. That is the side we want to work with. And now I'm going to put down a bit of talcum powder. Doesn't have to be talcum powder. You can use corn flour. Don't need heaps, just a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to be using this flask in a vertical orientation, which means I'll be casting through the hole in the side of the flask. So I need to think about where I'm going to place my ring design in relation to where I want the metal to fill in. So this ring is tapered. It's got a big fat top and it tapers down to a skinny back. So this fat top here, that's my party zone. That's where I'm going to put all my awesome drippy copper. And I'm going to have a silver shank and silver shoulders. So I'm going to pour the silver through the base of this ring. And that's the part of the ring that I'm going to have facing the hole. I'm going to put it there. Even though you know you're casting through the side of the flask, don't put your object really up tight and close. You still need room for your funnel and your sprue hole. Give yourself that room by keeping your object, your ring shape, in the middle of the flask. So let's push that into about halfway. All right, and let's pop our female flask on top, lining up the registration mark, which is, in my case, that giant hole that I cut out of the side of my flask. When you buy your Delft clay kits from AJS, it comes with 2 kilograms of clay, and it comes with this cylindrical flask, and it won't have a hole in the side of it. It will just be smooth like this all the way around. It's up to you to get in there with your jeweler's saw and cut yourself a hole. It doesn't have to be a square one. It could be round. It could be a triangle. It could be a heart shape, whatever you want, as long as there's a hole there. All right, loose crumbly bits of clay. Press that down with your thumbs and fingers to make sure it's all nice and tightly packed around your object, so you don't get any cracks, crevices, or air bubbles. Because if you have cracks and crevices and air bubbles, then your silver is going to flow into those places, and you're going to have a fair bit of spillage around the outside of your casting, and that's extra cleanup for yourself. So to avoid that, just make sure the clay is nice and compacted. All right, hammer time. And again, take off that extra clay. Now let's open this flask up. Don't twist it open, just pull it apart nice and evenly. And if it's too tight for you to pull apart evenly, there is this nifty little gap in the side of the flask here. That's there by design so that you can get the back of your tweezers, maybe your steel ruler. You get something in there, and all you got to do is twist it and the lid pops off. All right. So I've got a really nice ring impression. Let's create a way for the silver to get into this mold. So I'm going to do my funnel, just remove some clay with my finger or my thumb. So that's my funnel. Making sure that your funnel doesn't go all the way down to your impression. You still need 6mm sprue. Now, the main reason why that is 6mm is enough of a gap for the silver or the molten metal to get through and fill your form. It's a big enough gap that your metal should be able to get through without solidifying too quickly. But then when it comes to cleaning up, you've only got a 6mm sprue to clean up, which is quite manageable. You can cut it up with your bolt cutters, you can saw pierce it off without breaking your saw blades. If you were to have that funnel making full contact with your object, yes, your piece will cast and it will cast very well, but then when it comes to cleaning up, you are going to have something that's about 12 to 15 millimeters, a 12 to 15 millimeter sprue attached to the back of your casting. And let me tell you, that gets very tiring very quickly, and you'll go through a few saw blades and it's just totally not worth it. So give yourself this little gap. You want to have that 6mm sprue attachment. Don't have your funnel coming directly down onto your object. Alrighty, let's get this little plastic bit out. And let's do my 6mm hole here. Now it's probably almost imperceivable, but you will have distorted the shank of your ring by spruing it up. So just get your ring and press it back into the mold. Give it a really gentle push, and that's just going to consolidate all those crispy edges. So your flats are flats, your crispies are crispies. Let's do it to the other side too.
Can we quote you on that one?
Sure can.
Sounded like an ad for a cereal, breakfast cereal.
Yeah. All right, now this is where it gets interesting. So this is my ring shape, and my idea is that I'm going to have copper dripping down the ring, just like it's going to be pooling here and it's going to be dripping down this ring. That's the idea I'm going for. But what I need to do with my silver version, this one I'm going to cast right now, is I need to intentionally block off sections of this ring so that when I cast it, the silver doesn't fully form. And wherever the silver doesn't fully form, that's where we're going to pour our copper in. And the copper is going to repair it, and the copper is going to drip over the surface of the silver, and it's going to, yeah, just look really delicious and like melted bubble gum. So my plan is to have half of this top here not form so that I can fill it with copper. And I'm going to pick this side to do that too. So all I'm going to do is get some clay, and I'm going to press it into that mold, into that negative space, and I'm going to block off a section of it so that the silver can't form. And I'm going to intentionally make it rough, gnarly. So I don't know if you can see, but I've gone in there and I've intentionally scruffed it up, because when my silver forms in these little divots, the silver's going to fill those divots, and then the silver's going to have like little prongs, I guess, like little fingers, so that when I pour my copper onto those silver fingers, they're going to lock in together, and it's going to be a really nice bond where you won't be able to pull them apart. You won't need to do any soldering. It's just going to be nicely locked in place.
You call that a 007 bond?
Yeah, 007 bond. Love it. Let's do an air vent and cast this in silver. So I'm just doing one air vent right from the middle here on the side that I did not obstruct. If I obstructed both sides, then I would do my air vents on either side of the obstructions, like this. Cool. Let's close that up and cast it. Now, are there any questions at this stage before I go ahead?
None at the moment.
Fantastic. That's what I like to hear. Okay. So because it's a vertical pour, we don't want this flask to roll around. So I'm just wedging it between two bricks. It's a very basic setup, but it works. There's my crucible. My crucible is looking a bit old and daggy. I apologize.
I'd just like to let everybody know that we have a live studio audience there with you today, and you're going to introduce us to that member of that studio audience at the end of this demonstration.
That's right. Yeah? You might hear some strange noises going on behind me. All right, so I'm just getting my silver scrap ready. It's a great way to use up your old bits of metal. You can melt down old chains as well, because normally you wouldn't be able to melt down old chains. This is my extractor, by the way. It's a really, really good idea to have fantastic ventilation. You can melt down chains with all the solder in it, because when you're sand casting or casting in general, you are casting in its final form. You're not going to then put it through the rollers or draw it down through a draw plate. It is its final form. You're not asking it to do anything. So that all that silver with the solder mixed through it isn't going to be grouchy, isn't going to be asked to do anything it doesn't want to. The thing that makes the metal hard to use is the zinc that's mixed in with the well, in this case it's silver. So silver solder is different levels of zinc and the metal that it is, which is silver. And it's the zinc that doesn't like to do very much. It doesn't like to be rolled out. It doesn't like to be bent or drawn down into wire, which is why it is advised not to use any metal with solder when you're trying to hand make with it. But because we are casting it, and we are casting it into a ring shape, and we're not going to ask it to do anything else, we're not going to be then, I don't know, banging it up 5 sizes. It is how it is. So that all that solder is happy to just sit there in its shape and not crack and not carry on and not be a pain in the ass, which is fantastic for us jewelers, because it means we can use all of that, all that crappy metal that you didn't think you could use. And that goes for the white golds as well. White golds and rose golds are notorious for being grouchy, crabby metals that don't like to be melted down with other white golds or other rose golds. and they cause a lot of problems for people trying to hand make. Sand casting is a fantastic option to get around those problems, particularly when it's sentimental metal, when someone has grandma's jewelry and they really, really want to use all grandma's white gold jewelry. And normally you wouldn't be able to do anything with it, but perhaps you can cast it into a ring or a pendant or earrings or something like that. It's just a fantastic option that a lot of people are not using or aren't aware of, perhaps.
Don't like that flame. I've got a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Just before you do, Robert said, I wonder how it would turn out with the way I have been soldering. I solder with silver and gold solder just to be unique.
Ooh, that's cool.
It could get some quite interesting results.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, really celebrating the workmanship, not trying to hide it, right? That's cool. Alrighty, let's go. This is our oxygen and gas. So we've just got LPG, which is friendly barbecue gas, and we have oxygen that you can buy from lots of places, but Bunnings is pretty much everywhere, and you can buy it from Bunnings as well as, you know, your BOCs and Power 10 gases. All right, and you get your mini Smith torch, and you have your regulators and your flashback arresters. And I would suggest that once you've got your oxygen and your gas cylinder, then to contact your jewelry supplier, which would be AJS, and ask them for the regulators and the mini Smith torches and the flashback arresters, just so that you get the correct threads that line up with our Australian threads. Because if you buy something online, you might accidentally purchase an American manufactured piece and their thread is not compatible with our thread, and you'd have to get adapters to make them work, and it's just extra pain in your bum. So if you're like me and you don't really know what you're looking for, just jump onto AJS, ask them for help, and they will give you exactly what you need. Alrighty, so I like to use a size 7 tip, but you can also get your rosebud tip if you prefer that for melting. Let's ignite that gas and introduce some oxygen. Alrighty, and I'm going to turn on my little extractor. Oops, fell out.
Uh-oh.
Roll. That's okay. Just fell into my tray as well. There we go. That's the door anywhere now. So can you still hear me?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Oh, amazing. All right.
A muffled, Kirra-lea, but we can still hear you.
Okay. Just to let you know, my crucible is already seasoned with borax, so I don't need to add any more. If I thought the metal was particularly nasty and had lots of slush on top, I would add some more borax, but I don't need to in this case. All right, there we go, nice and molten. It's at my rolling melt, chuck it down the hole. Ooh, nice and quick. Fantastic. All right, I'm going to put a mask on because even though I have a little extractor on, I'm overly cautious. Doesn't hurt. All right, let's open this up. So immediately after casting, you can open it up. Woohoo! All right, so that's what we've got. So that, not sure if you can see the gnarly section. That's where I'm going to be pouring my copper into that section that didn't form. and is then going to be filled in with copper. And not just filled in with copper, I'm hoping to achieve a really melted bubblegummy sort of look with that copper. You know, I'm using copper today, but you guys can use gold, rose gold. You know, you can use a precious metal if you'd like. But just for demonstration purposes, it's so much easier for me to use copper.
So Kirra-lea, just got a comment from Renee, who's just got to duck off, and she'd like to watch our replay later, and just to let Renee know that, yes, it will be available on the Facebook page for AJS. We also publish all our videos to YouTube and to our website as well.
Sure do. Fantastic. I'm just going to open a window because I probably should have done that to begin with. Hang on a moment.
Was the live audience complaining?
Oh, she thought I was coming over to pat her. All right, so that was part one of our twice cast technique. So just like in the word, twice cast, we've done one casting, we're about to do the second casting. So let's make the mold again. Let's just get this out of the way so I don't accidentally touch it. Because I'm not casting with stones, I could quench that silver ring. Because there's no stones, I don't have to worry about stones going to thermal shock. I could just quench it so that I'm not worried about it being hot and me accidentally touching it. But guess what? I didn't set up any water near me, so it's just going to bench cool over here. All right, let's get this flask set up again. Let's lay down our talcum powder. So you could, right at the very start, if you've got multiple flasks, you can just set up two flasks at the same time so that it feels a little bit quicker. You can just go from one burnt mold and just go straight into the next mold, which is already set up and ready to go. But I'm just doing it one at a time. Lady flask, pop her on top, lining up that registration mark. Loose bits of clay, press it in with your thumb and fingers, and then just a big old handful of clay. And compress it with a hammer. Take off that extra. And let's get this mold open. Oh, you know what I did? I made a mistake, you guys. Oh. Hey, look what I did. All right, so I'll run through what I've just done wrong. Don't know if any of you guys will recognize what I've done wrong, but the party zone is up here. So that's the fun part of the ring that I will be seeing when I'm wearing it. And this is the shank of the ring, right?
Yeah.
Well, I want to pour molten metal into the section of the ring that is incomplete, which is the top part. So at the moment I'm doing this, when what I actually need to do is flip that master around so that it's like this, so I can actually pour the copper into the section that needs repairing.
Otherwise it's going nowhere.
It's going nowhere. Bum, bum. Hey, but guess what? All I'm going to do is flip this ring around the way I want it to be. I'm lucky I get to do this because this design's quite basic. You might not get away with this if you were doing something like a signet ring. So I just put it into the orientation that I actually need it in. And I'm just going to, you know, technical term, beat the crap out of it. All right, now I should have a new impression in the correct orientation for what I'm doing. Hey, look, if I didn't make that mistake, I couldn't show you how easy it can be to fix it. Cool. All right. Now we still have to do our sprue hole and funnel. So let's do our little funnel with our thumb. And let's do our sprue. There we go.
So we've got a neighbour of yours. Sorry, Kirra, we've got a neighbour of yours just joined us, and that's Russell. So welcome, Russell. He's also from Tasmania.
Oh, I thought you meant my actual neighbour. Oh, hello, Russell. my neighbouring person in the city. Yeah, awesome. Hello.
If he's in Tasmania, he can only just be down the road.
Around the corner anyway, yeah. Awesome. All right. So my mold is as ready as it's going to be at the moment. So let's get in with our bolt cutters and just snip off that big old sprue. There we go. Got a good view of my head. Is there some dandruff in there? Probably. Okay. Now I do have to clean this casting up a little bit. Not heaps though. I just need to do things like there's this where the air vent was, the metal traveled up the air vent. Take that off. Where the burnt clay is still in all those cracks and crevices, I need to get that out. So if you have an ultrasonic, chuck it in the ultrasonic. But I'm just going to use this little brush and brush out all the burnt clay. So if you were to leave the burnt clay in there, it's going to act as a barrier and stop your copper from properly adhering to that silver. All right. So I also have a few little bumps and lumps on the outside of this. I'm just going to knock them off. I'm not going to do anything crazy, just a really basic cleanup. I just want to make sure that that copper can run like molten metal. It is molten metal, but I want it to look, it doesn't have any barriers in the way. It doesn't have like lumps and bumps it's got to jump over that are possibly going to alter the course of the metal's flow. I want to have a really nice, clean path. So I'm just going to knock off any of those high points because I want that metal to be able to rush over this surface unobstructed. The other thing I'm going to do is quickly give it a little emery just on that part that I filed, because if the copper does what I want it to, it's going to drip and pool over this little part of the silver band. And if I have file marks on that silver that's really close to where that copper is, I can't get back in there and clean that up very easily. So knowing that I might not be able to get back to this part of the surface, I'm going to clean it up the way I want it to look right now. And if your idea of what you want it to look like is perfectly smooth, then get in there right now and make that perfectly smooth. I like to have a bit of texture. I like to have my silver textured and then my copper highly polished. So it really amplifies that drippy, liquidy bubblegum look. But I don't want file marks because that looks unfinished. Okay. Now, if I was to place this silver ring inside of the mold, close it up and cast, the copper will fill in, but it will fill in really tightly into this gap because this is an exact mold of the original ring, which is this is a copy of. I need to create room for that copper to spill over the surface of this silver ring, which means I need to make this mold here a slightly bigger version, a slightly wider, a slightly deeper version. And all you do is have your master and wiggle it north and south and east and west and push it a little bit down as well, because we're just making this impression a thicker version of itself so that that copper has more room to move around. All right. And let's do it to the other side as well. It doesn't hurt. Even though I know my metal's being poured just on one side, I'm going to do it to both sides. Mm-hmm.
So can you be too thin? You need to have
Oh,
enough to be ample, or?
Well, like if it's too thin, let me grab out that example piece again, which I wonder if I can find it now. I threw it down.
You did have one you prepared earlier.
I did. I had it just a moment ago. Okay. I don't know if this is going to help, but this is a ring I've done before where I wanted it to be the exact ring just with copper. So can you see that copper is flush with the silver surface?
Yeah.
On this side,
yep,
and this side, and a little bit on the top of that as well. But I mean, it looks cool. It looks cool. It's just a different look. So that was not wiggling my master at all. So that was casting into another replica. But if you can see on this shoulder here, which is so hard to show you, see how that copper's raised and it's really drippy?
Mm-hmm.
That's the sort of look. Oh, there we go. That's the sort of look I want to go for all over this other ring. I know that's a bit hard to see. I apologize. Anyway, hopefully it's makes more sense once I do it.
Yep.
So I'm just going to pop in this silver ring into the mold. All right, well, I'm just going to close and open it and see where that sprue is going to land, because I want to make sure it's mostly getting into the section that I need filling. And if I look at that, you can see too much of that silver. Let's reposition that sprue. I need that sprue to be deeper on this side and shallower on this side. So I'm just going to get my little straw and I'm just going to go pretty heavy down on this side now. And on this side over here, just going to pull. Actually, I could probably leave that one in there. Just going to get a little bit of clay and fill in that original sprue. So if I close and open it now, or if I close it now, I should be able to see a lot less of that silver. Or I probably want to see even less of that silver. Let's go back in. Doesn't matter. Whatever, it's a demo piece. Being a bit too pedantic, it doesn't really matter. All right, I've done a little bit of fussing to it, so let's get back in there with this master and give it a wiggle and get it back to being nice and bulky. Fantastic. And I did a bit of fussing on this side, so let's pull this silver version out, pop our master back in and give it a wiggle. Again, we just want to make sure there's enough room for that copper to roll over the surface in a drippy sort of looking way. All right, let's pop that silver ring in. Oops.
Oop.
It doesn't matter that that center part came out because it's not affect. Oh, actually it will in this case. I apologize. We'll put that back in. There's so many different ways of doing this exact thing that I sometimes forget what is important, what's not. As long as I remember before I actually do the casting, right?
Indeed.
Okay, yes, you absolutely need the center part in this case. All right, so can you see that silver ring is in there, but see that gap in the clay?
Yep.
That's where the copper is going to fill in. So the copper's got room to move around on that surface. Let's close this up and open it and make sure that this ring's not disturbing the clay on this side that's going to do something unattractive to our copper. We want to make sure that copper's got a nice clean path. All right, I'm going to pop this ring master back in and give it a bit of a cleanup. It did disturb the clay a little bit, and I want to make sure that this copper is as smooth as possible. It doesn't have any loose bits of clay that are going to be creating texture. I want it to be nice and smooth. So let's double check again. Close and open. Cool. I don't have any loose bits of clay that spilled out into this half. So I know that that copper is going to fill in there and it's going to be nice and smooth. It's not going to have any gnarly sort of organic textures. I want it to look like melted bubble gum. That's the look I'm going for. All right, before we close this up and cast copper, let us do some air vents. And I want some air vents running down the side here because I really want to encourage that metal to come down the side of this ring. All right, down there like that. And another one over here. Fantabulous. All right, let's close it up and cast. Making sure it's actually closed properly. I just see a little grain of clay in there. Let's just get that out. All right, copper time.
So by pouring the copper in there, would you then have an undercover copper?
Sorry, what was that?
It was a poor attempt at humour, Kirra-lea. Would you end up with an undercover copper?
Yeah, okay. It's to follow on with your 007 joke, right? The Bond.
That's it.
Yeah, I get you.
Thanks for laughing politely.
I'm not as quick as you. All righty, well, let's melt some undercover copper. Now, your copper does take a lot longer to melt down than your silver. And the other thing is you will have to wear tinted glasses, not just tinted glass, but what's that? Polarized glasses or welder's goggles, because it's not so good to look at the I don't know, reflection, the light coming off of this copper. It can be damaging to your eyes, like looking at the sun. So put your safety glasses on and make sure that they are tinted to protect your eyes. Let's get this flame hot. And let's turn this on. So if you find your copper taking way too long to melt down, you can add a little bit of silver to it, and that will bring the melting temperature down lower so that it melts faster. But maybe I will do, you don't really have to have much. Whatever that is, just add that in there. So essentially what we're doing is pure copper is on a molecular level, let's say it is triangles, a mosaic of triangles. And triangles sitting in triangles is like a perfect armor. There's no gaps in between, which makes it hard for the heat to get in between those molecules and excite them and make them melt. But once you chuck in some silver, and let's say silver on a molecular level are squares, you're suddenly mixing squares in with triangles, and that perfect mosaic of armor has little gaps in it now because they don't fit together so perfectly. And that's how your heat can get in between those molecules easier and excite them and melt them faster.
You quoting Dr. Carl there again?
I'm quoting Dr. Carl. I didn't invent that analogy, he did. But I love it all the same. All right, we still want that rolling melt from the copper. All right, I'm happy with that. Let's toss it down the hole, nice and quick. Hold it there for a few more heartbeats just to make sure it is piping bloody hot. You want this copper to be as liquidy as it could possibly be. And copper, unfortunately, by nature is a bit gluggy. It's not as viscous as sterling silver. All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3, whoop, down the hole. Flame off. So let me chuck on my mask. All right, and this is the exciting part, because you can have all the hopes and dreams in the world, but you'll never really know what's going to happen. Let's open it up and see. All right, well, I didn't get as drippy as I was hoping for. I really wanted lots of dripping on the top of this, but we, you know what? I'm going to quickly quench this so I can fondle it. Hang on.
So just while Kirra-lea's organising herself there, welcome, Greg. Good to have you on board from Harvey Bay. And thanks for your comment about turning Kirra-lea into a Hulk, Robert. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Welcome back, Kirra-lea.
Hello, what happened?
We've just been having a chat while you've been away.
Oh, okay. I wasn't gone that long, was I? Where did I put my bulk cutters here? All right, let's chop off this big lump on top so you guys can see the melted bubblegum look I was going for, but didn't quite achieve. But I could just go in and do it again if I wanted to. Like, I could make this ring again and again and again until I got it right. All right, so that's where our metal was poured in at. Oh gosh, come on, phone.
Yep, perfect.
That's where our metal was poured in on. And this is the copper. Yeah, it did some little cute spilly thing here. Yeah. I wanted it to do some more dramatic spilling over here as well, but it just did it in the one spot there. And then it's come along here and it's filled in that broken part quite nicely. And it's come up there. We look at it from the side. So it's filled in a little bit of a drip's gone down here. So it's filled in here. And then all the way down to here. Can you see that?
Yep.
So that copper has gone all the way down this arm here, which looks quite cool. But I would have to put a little bit of solder here and let it run up just to make sure that nothing got trapped underneath this section and then, you know, pulled that copper little arm back. Because I know that that's a smooth surface on a smooth surface. So the adhesion is not very good. But if we can have a look at the inside a little bit. Yeah, so that filled in. There we go. That's a bit better, isn't it?
Yeah, that's good. I think actually if you held it in two hands, it then focuses on your two hands. Just try that, Kirra-lea. Yeah, that's a lot better.
There we go. So there's that aggressive drip of copper there, which is cool, but I was hoping for more of a dynamic drip on the front part of the ring. It's not too bad though. I could do a whole series of these and do exactly what I did over and over and over again. And every time I would get a completely different looking ring, which could be a really interesting series to do. I think once
Indeed.
cleaned up, that would look quite nice. So interesting.
So what are the finishing steps to clean that up then, Kirra-lea?
Yeah, all right. So it'll be knocking off that copper sprue there, just bringing it down to the same height as the rest of that copper, making it nice and flush. I like to get that copper really nice and smooth. So I'll go down through the grades of emery and then I'll give it a good polish. But as for the silver, I like to keep it quite rough. So once I've so there's like a little bit of a seam here. If I was really unattracted to that, I would file that back and make that really flat. And then I would go back into it with a little texturing wheel, which I can't remember what these are called, but this is my favorite little texturing wheel. It adds like a little stippled look, and it looks so similar to the sand casting texture that it's perfect for blending in anywhere that you need to repair. So that seam, if you don't like the seam, file it right back, then emery it a little bit, and then go over it with this, and it'll blend where you've worked on that metal. It'll blend it back into the rest of that natural sand texture. And this little wheel, being the blue one, it's the coarsest one, and I like it best.
Have you got a nickname for that one, Kirra-lea?
I just call it Stippling Tool.
Mm-hmm.
I know, Stippy, little Stippy. So you can get a few different sizes of these. This is the smallest you can get. I can't remember the exact price, but I want to say it's like $12.50.
Oh, we've just got a comment from AJS, probably in Adelaide actually, and they say it's a dull matting brush.
There we go, dull matting brush. You can get a bigger size than this.
Not quite as cute as Stippy, but anyway.
Not quite as cute as Stippy. You can get a bigger version of this that still fits in your flexi drive or your micromotor. And I think the price jumps up admirably to I feel like it's like $50. So I tend to go for the little one. And then you get an even bigger version again, which is the giant wheel that you put on your polishing motor. So your what are they called, Peter? Polishing motor, polishing hood, hub. Yeah. And they're quite a bit expensive as well. If you are using these, absolutely as a must, wear safety glasses, because these little needles, they can fly off, and they will fly off. If you don't have glasses on, it's a very real risk that you'll get them in your eye. So it's very, very essential to wear safety glasses. Well, I reckon next time we do a demo, Peter, maybe it'll be about cleaning up these pieces, these mixed metal pieces. Just so people can, because at the moment with the mixed metal stuff, I know it doesn't look very exciting. It kind of looks like a mess. And I don't know, it's hard to get excited about something that looks like a grubby mess like this, but it's got potential, and it doesn't take much to bring that potential to its, I don't know, fullness. Fruition, is that the word? I don't know.
Yeah. So perhaps we could do that, clean it up on the next one, and then we could sell it to the highest bidder.
Yeah, sure. Maybe it's the person who's been watching the most. They can have it. Whoever's here all the time.
Well, we do have some lovely dedicated viewers, Kirra-lea. Now,
Awesome.
You did make us a promise that you were going to introduce us to the member of your live audience there.
Oh, all right.
Are you able to do that?
You can kind of see Mochi, my Indian ringneck, but I'll go get Pebble. She's the one making all the noise. Hang on a moment.
Radio.
So this is Pebble Pigeon.
Oh, now you got Pebble when she was just the wee little Pebble.
Yeah, featherless little scrap.
Wow.
And if anybody's seen baby pigeons, they are so ugly. But she grew into this big, beautiful, luscious-looking pigeon. And she's just so adorable. She's like a dog. All she wants is pats and cuddles all the time. So,
she doesn't like being on TV, though, obviously.
Oh, no, this is her routine. She comes out, she does a few laps. So she'll go from one perch to another one, and then she'll come land on you and demand cuddles and kisses.
Okay.
I don't know. It's this weird little triangle she does around the room before she comes back in. I don't know what it means. Some bird language.
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably just setting their navigation
Checking their
system.
parameters, right?
Yeah.
And making sure that everything's as it was, you know, they don't have to go beat up other birds that are in their territory or something. I don't know.
Mm.
But Pebble's a girl pigeon. She shouldn't be that territorial. I don't know. Don't know.
Anyway, well, thank you very much for the introduction to Pebble there, Kirra-lea.
You're
And
welcome.
if
Thank
we
you
have
for the
any
introduction.
final comments or questions, please fire them away. So Robert actually has rainbow lorikeets.
Oh, they're so cute. They're like little dogs as well.
Yeah, top-notch pigeons and fig eaters outside his door at the moment. Yeah.
Beautiful.
There you go. So Tracy has said, thanks, Kirra-lea. Excellent demo as always. Keep well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll wrap it up there. So thank you very much to all those who participated today, including Robert, Tracy, Jason, Russell, Renee, Silver, Greg and Dawn and others. And
Thank
that
you.
is a lovely site that we're looking at right now, Kirra-lea.
Yeah, she comes back.
That's a lovely way to wrap it up. So we'll look forward to seeing you all next time round. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. See ya.